Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on machine translation for life sciences. My name is Ruben Martinez, and I'll be moderating today's event with our two guests. But before we introduce our two guests and we roll on with today's topic, a couple of things in terms of housekeeping, so we also give some more time to people to join, since it's just 12 o'clock. Please keep your mics mute throughout the entire webinar, and also use the Q&A or the chat windows in order to ask your questions throughout the entire event. The plan is that we will use about 35-40 minutes for today's presentation, and afterwards we will also allocate time for the Q&A session, where if anyone wants to, we are also willing to open mics and have an open conversation. Having said that, we are ready to kick off what we just introduced. Today's webinar, Machine Translation for Life Sciences. We talk about quality, security, and speed. Our guests today are Victoria Kononova, guest speakers. Victoria, hi, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Hi, nice to see you, Roman.
Victoria is the Customer Relations Manager at Tilde, and her main focus is on developing international MT business segment within Tilde. Victoria is a trusted partner for any company looking to learn about machine translation or include new tools in their current translation processes. With Victoria, we will be going through a lot of different elements throughout today's presentation. And also with us today, as the other speaker, is Elise Urba. Hi, Elise.
Hello.
Elise is a product owner at Soonbased, where they develop e-services for the healthcare sector and localizing clinical databases. So before we open up the entire topic of today's webinar, Victoria has promised a special treat for all the attendees to today's webinar. So stay tuned. After today's presentation, we will unwrap this small Christmas present that Victoria is promising to all the attendees to today's webinar. Before moving into the topics in detail of what today is taking us for this webinar, we wanted to introduce a very general topic when it comes to the languages around us. We live in one of the most homogeneous regions in the world, the European Union, and even the fact that we talk about one of the most homogeneous regions in the world, we have 24 official European languages in the European Union, EU official languages. But that's not all, because these are the official languages, but widely spoken, as we can see, there are 80 different languages across the region. So diversity is one of the main characteristics when it comes to languages in the European Union. And with this diversity, there are certain elements that also come into play. One of them is diversity bringing challenges and at the same time opportunities. So it all depends on the way how we look at things. And if we focus on this specific field that will take the most of today's time, life sciences, this is an important element. And in here, I would like to bring into the conversation our two speakers, because from your perspective, Victoria, Elise, how this language diversity within this specific example, the European Union, but we can take it to a wider level, how this language diversity applies to your daily activities. For example, Victoria talking to businesses, and then also Elise from her daily activities. We talk about a very specific industry, life sciences, and I believe having precise language used in this context is highly important.
Sure, I will start. I guess, yes, many can say that English is the language of choice and everybody speaks English when it comes to business. However, that's not true, especially in such complicated industries as medical. There are some industries, in my experience and my business practice, where language diversity and multilingualism comes as it's optional to grow your business, to reach wider audience, but there are some industries where it's mandatory, like life sciences, for example. And here you need to really ensure that you understand every little language community. So I would say that on a large scale, yes, English is the language of choice, but if we break it down, there's still so many language communities that need their attention.
I would say from our side that the challenge is that not everybody is speaking English, and we have to still translate all the data so the end user can understand what they are using.
Yeah, this is one of the first things that comes to my mind. If I go to the pharmacy, for example, to buy I don't know, some pills or antibiotics that the doctor just gave me the prescription for, and I'm not able to understand what is written, what's the doses I need to take and the consequences or the side effects and things like this. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Yeah.
Or if you take part in a clinical trial, for example, of a new drug, and you just are reading through the side effects or the drug and you don't know what it is, it's also very, very important.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for your input. I think we will touch more in detail, I believe, throughout the next slides. But since we talk about a very specific industry needs language diversity, I would also like to ask one question to the audience, just to warm up the atmosphere of today's event. Because when we talk about, for example, we just mentioned, for example, having instructions of antibiotics or taking part in clinical research and things like this. That's work of a human person behind, mostly having to enable all those instructions, elements, and things like this in those languages. So we talk about translators. And the question I would like to ask to the audience is, in your opinion, without the use of any technology, how many words do you think a productive translator can translate per day? We'll launch a poll now in Zoom, so you can vote. And then we can see the results. So most of the people think that between 2,500 and 3,000 words per day. That's the answer that has received more votes. So, well, actually, the answer is between 1,500 and 2,000 words, and which is the same 3-4 pages single space, or 6-8 pages double space, just to understand a bit more in detail. And at the end of the day, that only highlights the importance of that quality element that they bring to the table, translators, with their work. So I believe we'll look into more details regarding this topic. And with further ado, I'll give the floor to our speakers today. Victoria, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Ruben. As Ruben has already introduced me, my name is Victoria, and I'm responsible for client relationships of the business segment at Tilde. Now, before we go into the life sciences sector specifically, a few words about who we are. Tilde is one of the leading language technology companies out there. We specialize in AI powered solutions such as machine translation and speech technologies. We also have translation localization in-house, and two go often hand in hand. Our research and development is also done in-house, and we partner with a number of leading universities around the world to ensure that we are innovative and that we stay ahead of competition, and then we see and feel the next coming trend on the market. And our clientele is huge. It's spread all over the world, from public, business, as well as language service providers. And the next slide will show you just a few examples of the clients we work with, like European Commission, IBM, Rail Baltica that is currently being built here. So these are just a few names among many. An important thing to mention, there are Olympic Games for machine translation providers, world machine translation competitions. And 4 years in a row, 4 consecutive years, we took first place in those competitions, competing with giants like Google and Microsoft, and beating all of them, taking first place, specifically in excelling in complexity, small languages, very sort of complex combinations. So that's something that we're very proud of. Now, probably most of you, or a lot of you, don't know what is machine translation. To put it in simple words, it is a machine, essentially, that is doing a human's job. So it's an artificial intellect that is being trained and being taught just like human would, to be able to translate documents, to translate text, to translate websites, or even to translate speech with a click of a button, so almost instantly. Essentially digitalizing everything and replacing, to some extent, a human. Okay, moving on. Now let's talk about translation in machine translation, specifically in life sciences industry. Now, you all know probably that life sciences is a very complex, it is a very heavily regulated industry that needs to meet very high quality standards. And as I already mentioned, it's not an industry where translation is optional. It is where translation is mandatory. It is very crucial to document and to create the content correctly. This is one part, but apart from that, it is also as crucial and as important to translate it correctly. And that's what we are going to talk about today. First element where translation comes in are large volume documents. Now, there's a huge variety and quantities of documents that come in place at every stage of drug or device development. And these are large volume, different kinds of formats that need to be often frequently translated. Now we talk about drug instructions and labels that Ruben has briefly touched on, that is mandatory, essential to translate in many different languages. These are clinical trials that entail, like, every stage of the clinical trial entails a huge variety of documents. These are patient questionnaires, patient records, clinical study protocols. I mean, you name it, there is a huge variety of documents that need to be maintained. And because of the nature of this process, clinical trials, they are held all over the world, normally in various countries where people do not speak English, or people do not speak each other's language. So it is crucial, it is important that we unify this or introduce a system, and everything that is recorded and imported is maintained correctly and translated correctly. And I'll go into details a little bit further. Regulatory submissions, again, sorry, Ruben, can you come back a little bit? Yes, regulatory submissions now at different stages of the product development lifecycle, you need to submit your documents to the regulatory bodies. And huge files of documents, again, huge volumes that are prepared, that are written carefully, and often need to be translated. Now that's another element. And also medical device documentation, which changes a little bit from the drug because of the manuals, the patent, the quality assurance standard documentation. So, all of this content normally is being translated by translators in-house. So somebody, perhaps, if it's a large company, you would have your own translators that would take care of this. Or if a company doesn't have them, they would outsource it to somebody else who would take care of this. Now imagine the number of times and the volume of these documents and how much time that takes up. Not talking even about the cost, but how much time it takes up to translate, given what we discussed earlier, on average, how many words a translator translates a day. So it's a very big chunk of everyday processes of a company, let's say, to make sure that everything functions properly. Now, another element where translation is needed, and this is probably more of a modern element in life sciences industry, are the communication and record tools, or digital communication record tools that are now more and more being implemented, either mandatory or not, by hospitals and companies and whatnot. So these are patient portals, hospital electronic systems, and there's a lot of providers that sell those softwares as well. So that's something that is changing with the digital age. And very often, especially maybe if these are state provided portals, they are not multilingual. So imagine if in a country there's, first of all, a lot of language minorities, and they are patient, or they need to have access to the records, or they need to understand the results of their blood tests, or if there's a country with a lot of tourist influx as well, multilingual, not English speaking tourist influx, that need to turn to hospitals, so often, these systems do not accommodate those patients, and our technology and our tools helps solve this problem. And the next, I think, also very important element, global reach through a website. Every website, every company, in order to reach a wider clientele, a wider audience, would want to translate their content or transmit their content in many different languages. Now, what is normally being done by a lot of companies is they are creating this content separately. So I don't know, whatever Word document or anything there. So they're creating it separately. They're giving it to translators who are then translating this content just in the same loophole as they would all the other documents. And then when modifications need to be done, they're going back or maybe rewriting or translating again. So you see, it's very complex. There's many stages that are involved in the content before uploading it to the actual website platform. Now, what we are trying to offer or substitute and explain to companies, we are providing a solution where you can do it yourself, where you can do it intuitively, where you can do it synchronously and dynamically. And I will go into more details when I do the actual demo of the website. Now, how can we help? First, what I haven't mentioned before, apart from the quality, apart from the speed that is essential in this industry, security is another element, confidentiality. Now, we are dealing with data that are protected by patents. We are dealing with data that falls, with content that falls under GDPR requirements and many other confidentiality rules and regulations. Now, this is highly sensitive content we're talking about, and you would not put it through Google Translate. We would worry about this content. Our platform offers the safe and secure environment where your data is protected and even anonymized if necessary. That's a very important element. Now, how the actual tool looks like. It is a platform It is a translation platform, a user interface that you, as a user, as an employee of the company, as a patient, as a participant of the clinical trial, whoever you give it to, would have access to. And you would enter your safe and secure space where you can type in text or copy, paste your text, translate the text. You can upload or drag and drop any document of any format and any size, and you can have it translated with the click of a button. On the same platform, you would have access to communication tools, like, for example, Outlook plugin, exchanging emails with anybody in the organization in different countries, exchanging emails with, clinical trial participants. So you would exchange those emails in respectively native languages of both parties, but also in the safe and secure space where your data would not leak. Through the same platform, for the convenience sake, you would also have access to the website translator. So you would just be able to maintain and check and edit your website using the same platform, just clicking on a button there. I'll demonstrate it later. And also very, very important feature that comes in place for this specific industry is the terminology portal. Now, life sciences is an industry with a lot of drug names, side effects, disease, symptoms. I mean, there's so many terms that not everybody, even involved in the process, perhaps understands everything. So it is important that actually everybody is on the same page and everybody speaking different languages understand the same term correctly. For this purpose, we've created a terminology database where you can look up the terms that you don't know in the available database. You can also upload your existing, perhaps, glossary that you've created prior in any format. You can create collections explaining terms in different languages, and you can synchronize that with your translation, teaching the system that these are the terms, this is how you want them to be translated. And I'll also show you this in a little bit. And one also important feature, I think, specifically for this industry, and even if we are substituting some part of human job, even if we are saving time, saving money, and just easing up, the processes, we still need, because of the nature of the content, we still need a human, of course, to look through these documents. We cannot just, leave them untouched. And also for the convenience sake, and maybe because you do not have the resources on the same platform, you can just click a button and send these documents to our in-house linguists that will look through and ensure that everything is correct. So this is kind of, to wrap up the whole process. And finally, what do you get from it? What's the benefit for you? So first and foremost, the human importance. So you ensure that your processes and your products are safe. Let's put it that way. And secondly, is the business aspect that I've touched upon a few times. You save time, you save money, you reduce your costs, you optimize your business processes in the safe and secure environment that I've mentioned. And, overall, you boost your profitability as a company. And now let me just dive into the demo. Okay, I will just open up my screen. Oops, not this one. Here. Okay. Ruben, give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so this is how the platform looks like. This is the user interface, which you will log in as a user with your user credentials. Obviously, you can change the branding according to your branding guidelines, and change the color or font or whatever you want. And here you would see all the elements that I've mentioned are at the top. So let me just go through them one by one. So here is the window on the left of the original text, whether it's copying text or whether it's uploading a document. So in this case, I would write a word in Spanish, and I would have it translated on the right hand side in any language that I want. I can also copy and paste any URL, any website that is not in, multilingual, and I still need to read through it, whether perhaps it's a, patient portal or something that I don't understand. By copying and pasting it, I can just instantly translate it in the language that I need and just read through it and familiarize myself with the content very, very quick through the same portal. Here is just a sample of a PDF document, and in French, just take a look at the structure of the document, the paragraphs, the small font, how the layout is maintained. And we will upload this document, drag and drop it into the platform, and let's select the language combination. We'll translate it from French into English. Now it's a PDF document, so what the system would do, it's essentially would first convert this document, translate it, then offer you the possibility of maintain it still in the doc format, which is probably better, so you can make any modifications if you need, and then create a PDF document again. So let's take a look at the translated document. Just for the demo's sake, you could see that this is the same page that I showed. The layout of the document has been preserved, so the paragraphs are broken down the same, the font is maintained, the spacing is maintained. So the same would apply to pictures, diagrams, tables, and whatnot. So the system would take into consideration your original document structure. Let's move into the next feature, which is a CAT tool that I haven't mentioned before. A CAT tool is actually an environment where a translator can make changes and can go through the document in detail. So there are many different CAT tools that are available that we can plug into this platform, like MemSource, MemoQ, etc. But this is just our own Tilde cut tool that is very simple, and even a non-translator can use it. So for example, me as a company's manager, I have some regulatory dossier that I want to upload and assign it to anybody in the company to look at. So I can just do it right there. Let's say I want to translate this document from English into German. Now, this is how the system would break down the file. So on the left-hand side, you would see the original text broken down into sentences. I would go through these sentences and click on each and every sentence. And then by clicking on the right-hand side, I see that the system is giving me a suggestion of suggested machine translation. So what I would do, I would just click on it and have it translated on the right-hand side. So this is, the translation by the machine. Now, I didn't like something, I just changed, I saw that maybe there is like incorrect spelling, or there is a city that is not translated correctly, and I would just make the modification right there on the right-hand side and quickly validate it right there. So what the system would do, the system would learn from your modifications and remember it. And the next time you would translate the same document or a similar document, perhaps on the right-hand side, you would also already see that the system would give you a translation memory choice. So you can, it's very useful when you are translating similar types of document, and you can make those translation memories available if they are probably confidential, crucial, very crucial information. You would make them available only to selected individuals in here. And down there at the bottom, you would see how long, so from the business optimization standpoint, you would see how long it took me to go through certain elements of the text, and how long is left, how much time I need still to go through the rest of the text. Now, let me show you the terminology database, how it works. So here, for example, I would select work computer, and it would appear down there in the little window here. So I click look up, and it would automatically bring me to the Tilde term database that is connected with the Euroterm, also the largest terminology database, where I can easily find my term. that I need in the language that I need. And I can also create collections of terms that I'm using frequently, perhaps. And here I would have, as you can see, the word computer quickly explained to me with a picture. I would see the word computer in many different languages, with a URL if I need to read about it more carefully. And I can also have a discussion with somebody in their organization about this specific term, which is quite useful when using similar terms in the text content. Now, also an important feature that I need to mention is that here you can teach the system that in one specific language you would want this word computer to be translated one way, like a computer, and in a different language like English, American English, I would want to translate it as a PC, for example, as personal computer. So there's different tricks how you can integrate it into your translation workflow. Now let's take a look at how the website translator works. Now let's, for the example's sake, take a look at our Tilde webpage that we preserve and maintain in English. And then I would log in as administrator and go into the original language of the country, which is Latvian, and show you that I can create my content and have it edited or altered, changed here directly on the web page. So I don't like something in this heading, I would quickly change it and validate it. So I just don't need to go anywhere else and copy the content. I can do it there. If it's a larger portion of content, I would go to the text editor here, and I would just, go through the text here and change it there. And it would appear directly on the web page in all the languages, synchronously and dynamically in all the languages that we're using. Another very important feature for businesses that is implemented into the translation website translator is the search engine optimizer. So basically you would want your product or your area of expertise or disease area to appear on top of Google searches, if anybody is searching for that. So you can do it here. You can assign as many keywords, words you need, and have it translated and have it appear in Google. So in here, through the plugins, you can have the plugins to the CAT tools that you're using. But let's take a look at the Outlook plugin that I mentioned, have exchanges with anybody that is involved in the process. So this is just, my Outlook. So here under the email, I would go to the feature Tilde MT translator feature that is enabled. I would click there and I would have this email that I just selected be translated from Latvian, the original language, into English so that I can understand what the person is talking about. Having read the email, I can just reply to it right there in the same little window over there. I would reply in English and have it translated into Latvian. I would translate it. I would copy this content, go back into the email and just reply. So it's quick and easy and maintain everything in the secure environment. Okay. And here is the request human translation. So the linguist assistance that I mentioned before. So, having uploaded your documents and translated your documents yourself, you would then send it to us. And we will, give you the quote and we will directly communicate with you through the platform, which is very super quick and easy to do. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll answer them later. But now I will give the floor to our partner, Alicia, Celsius Healthcare, who will give you more details about the actual, first-hand experience.
Thank you, Victoria. Hello, my name is Elise and I'm from Soonbased. We are a health technology company from Estonia, and our main services are drug-drug interaction e-service. This is available in Estonia and Lithuania. We offer drug dosing recommendations for the patients with renal failure, This service is available in Estonian and in some Lithuanian hospitals. And our newest and biggest service is clinical decision support for primary care in Estonia. This service was chosen to be the best digital service in Estonia last year. And also we offer a Soonbased Portal, and this is meant for professional users, not patients, but doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. This example shows the interaction service in one Estonian hospital. Every time a doctor prescribes a drug, he or she will receive a reminder about the interaction if there are interacting drugs. And the yellow box contains the clinical consequence and of the interaction and recommendation what to do if you have interacting drug. Doctors don't have much time to read and think about the reminder, so it has to be precise and easily understandable. And the similar solution is available in Lithuania, in Lithuanian language. And to understand how much data this interaction or how much prescriptions there are, then every year in Estonia, over 10 million prescriptions are issued. So the amount of interaction reminder is quite huge. The next service is a clinical decision support system. This is an example of family doctors information system. Over 80% of family doctors in Estonia are using this solution. And the patient specific reminder in Estonian is displayed on the right side, which is marked with the red box. And over 800 GPs and 1,600 nurses are using it every day. And over 130,000 requests are sent to clinical decision support system every day. And this example is of Soonbased Portal. This is the portal I told that is meant for doctors, nurses, pharmacists. It contains up-to-date evidence-based clinical guidelines and all other clinical databases. And all those databases are updated regularly. This example is of coronavirus guideline, and it has been updated approximately after every 2 weeks during coronavirus outbreak. And here a red color marks the latest changes, so the doctor knows what have been changed after the last time they saw the article. We started to use machine translation when we started to translate the evidence-based clinical guidelines that I showed in previous slide. When we started to translate those guidelines into Estonian in 2018. The database contained almost 1,000 guidelines. There were descriptions of medical images, videos, and audio files. And Tilde was our consultant and technical partner in the translation process, and their recommendation was to try machine translation. In addition to the large translation volumes, our decision was influenced by the fact that this wasn't going to be a one-time project. All the databases are updated continuously 4 times a year. And also we had been translating drug databases from English to Estonian already for 3 years. So we had enough data to train the customized machine translation. We had domain-specific translation memories. We had terminology databases, which Victoria also mentioned, drug databases, diagnosis, symptoms. And we wanted to speed up the translation process. So it took 10 months to translate the clinical guideline database. And we estimated that custom-made machine translation is cost-effective, and it was. We had 20 part-time translators and editors when we were translating clinical guidelines, and we made a survey among them, and the feedback was very positive. In most of the cases, the machine translation really helped the translators. Machine translation speeds up the translation process. There is another side of speeding up the process. I will talk about it in the next slide. And we discovered that it depends on the source text. Machine translation works best with short and concise sentences. But if the sentence is longer, then machine can make more mistakes. And we also saw that compared to using translation memory, machine translation helped to avoid human errors. If translator took translation from memory, in the example of drug databases, one drug increases or decreases something of the other drug, then if they took it from the memory, they sometimes forgot to change the decrease to increase or vice versa. So there were mistakes, and machine avoided those mistakes. And the challenges. I'm not talking about the challenges we had before using machine translation. I'm more talking about the challenges we are having now. So in 2018 and 2019, we were occupied mainly with translating. We translated 2,500,000 words per year, and all the background work was done manually. So after finishing with the initial translation of the database, we have concentrated on integrating translation better into our workflow. So instead of uploading and downloading the files to the translation software, we now use API. And if Victoria showed those different solutions, then we are using machine translation plugin in MemSource software. So now all the files are sent automatically to MemSource, and when the job is completed, then the files are published in Soonbased Portal or in API services for hospitals. There is still room to improve machine translation. We haven't put as much effort into it as we would like to. And we learned that machine translation speeds up the translation process. But if you don't have a good translator using it, the quality of the result wasn't something that we were expecting it to be. It is impossible to remove the human factor from the equation to receive a high quality translation. So if it took 10 months to translate the database, then editing process was more complex. We used non-professional translators, mainly final year medical students, and it wasn't easy to find editors who could edit texts such clinical level. So the editing process was lagging behind, and finally we had to retranslate some parts of the database because of the poor quality of the translation. But to conclude, if somebody would ask, would we recommend using machine translation? It certainly depends on your specific needs and project, but in our case, I can't imagine translating without machine translation anymore. So this was a brief overview of our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. I think the last points will help us also to move to the Q&A, because they are, I believe, some of the key topics. And I see that we have a couple of questions already in the chat. But before we move into that, Victoria promised a small sweet. So Victoria, maybe you want to take over with that.
Yes, of course. So for anybody who has was registered and attended the webinar, we offer a discount, so a special offer, 30% off your first 3-month subscription. So this applies after the trial. Now the offer is valid till the end of the year, so time is ticking. So please, if you're interested and if you want to discuss further, contact me and we'll talk about it.
Thank you, Victoria. So there's the email address from Victoria here also. Elise's email address, if anyone is also interested in getting in touch with Elise from Soonbased. I see a couple of questions that I think we can link to the challenges that at the end of these slides Elise presented. We're talking about integration, improvement of machine translation, and the human factor. So one of the questions is regarding the customization, the terminology, which I believe can be addressed more to Victoria, but also Elise from her experience. And what is the relevance of those elements in the translation processes? I believe when it comes to quality mostly, and how do you manage these things, these elements for your clients, partners? I believe at the beginning of the conversations or throughout the process with them.
Sure, I will take it. So customization, actually, this is one of our specialties, one of our USPs, I would say, customization, so adapting to our clients' needs. Now, when I talked about the platform and I showed you the platform, there are different systems or different engines that we can propose. So we can propose the existing, so the off-the-shelf engines that we have. They're general, they're like train or broad data, or what we more often do for very complex and specific industries, we customize. So we train the systems. We train the systems on the data the clients provide us, on the data we also possess, combining it together to create the most fluent artificial intelligence machine. Now, customization does not only apply to the actual system and the engine. Customization also applies to platforms. So like I showed before in the slides, and like Elise showed, there are a number of portals and electronic systems that are currently being used. Now, we take our technology and we customize it, so we integrate it and we applied it to the platforms that hospitals or companies are using. So that's another element of customization. So yes, there's a lot of possibilities, but it all depends on the customer's needs, and we estimate that in the first conversations. About terminology, I believe also, yes, terminology can also be adapted and customized. As I mentioned, you can create your term collections, you can upload your existing glossaries, and all of this will have impacts on your translation. So the terms that you assign, like I showed, the terms that you create can be applied to your translation and can be then implemented into your workflow.
And then I believe linking it to Elise's last points, improving machine translation output throughout time, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Apart from the actual ability of the machine, like I showed, the machine to learn from the changes, and to, like a human, it would understand the corrections that you make, it would understand what you're trying to teach it. And this, would also improve essentially your website. Same goes, you know, to customizing. So customizing, training the system. It's like training, you know, a kid. Basically, we are assigning resources that are, you know, improving. So the system, the machine is constantly learning and constantly improving, hence providing better quality.
Lisa, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to add about this improvement in efficiency and rapidness, that we didn't measure it, but it was seen that with drug databases where the sentences are very short and concise, it really speeded up the process.
Good. There's one question actually in the chat I see.
Thank
you for the presentation. Question to Lisa: how much improvement, efficiency, and rapidness have you seen using machine translation? And how did you choose your provider?
We haven't measured it, but we made this questionnaire where we asked from the translators about it, and they said that it really helped the translation. It speeded up the translation.
Yeah, thank you. I see more questions coming in, so we still have some time. We can go through that. That last question was from Katrina. I see another question regarding security. Anonymous Lou asked, security and confidentiality are your top priorities for medical device companies. Can you tell a bit more about how do you ensure security? I believe this goes probably machine translation. I believe also for Soonbased. So there's no specific.
I can try to answer this question. We are using our own. We have MemSource account. Where we have our own machine translation memory, machine translation, and this is closed. Nobody else can use our data. So we own our data. We own our translation memory. And we can control the terminology we use, and we can control to whom we give the access to our account. So this is how we can ensure the security.
And anything you want to add, Victoria, on that topic?
Yes, as Elisa said, absolutely. It's each client's translation workspace that is heavily regulated. We have a number of documentations that also are applied in these cases. We sign NDAs and any other confidentiality agreement, and to make sure that the content is handled with care and not leaked anywhere else, as well as anonymization tools that are possible to apply to.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Victoria. One more question, Timon. Did your company handle also scales translations, which it will be used in the trials? The services are provided just for translations, or it is any possibility for full linguistic validation?
Yes, I will take this one. Yes, as I mentioned during the presentation, scales are translation and volumes of translation are large during clinical trials and different stages of the product development, and our system can support these volumes. Now, as I said, we also have an option of a linguist going through and validating the documents after they've been machine translated. So it's a necessity, I believe. There's a huge portion of time that has been saved on translating these large volumes, and then a linguist will go through and make sure that everything is in order and everything is correct to the regulations.
Thank you, Victoria. Terminology was one of the elements that resonated or was one of the topics that came over time throughout the presentation. I see Jeff mentioning that handling terminology is a key item across any and all authoring and translation technologies. There's no question, but I believe if there's anything that you, Victoria or Elisa, want to mention from your side on this terminology for this specific industry, life sciences is of importance. Yeah. and how it is done in this case. Yeah.
Yes, I guess just to reiterate that it is an extremely important tool for this industry. And also the new feature that we just launched is applying your glossary collection, the way you assign the translations to the actual translation workflow, so that the machine knows how to translate a specific disease in many different languages, which probably are translated differently. This is not just one main word. So this feature is very crucial for heavily term saturated industries like medical.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. I see that Jeff also posted a couple of comments that reinforce the idea that we've been talking throughout today's webinar. I remember qualifying a small clinical trial supplier 13 years ago for authoring and translation tools. It needed much work to adapt many other content management processes already in place with the language tools technologies. It was really interesting challenge. So I believe at the end of the day, this highlights the importance of that combination, human and technology, in the process to speed up processes and have that quality touch also with humans. Victoria, in terms of technology developments, where do you see things moving forward? Machine translation, probably related, and overall as AI power solutions.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think before the technology would move forward, the industry needs to catch up a little bit, because what we see, life sciences is generally a very conservative industry. It's a very slow industry that takes time to adapt. So it's not as digitalized as it could be. So there's a lot more digitalization that can take place, and slowly you kind of convert each step of the business into something that you can do digitally, you can teach a machine to do. Yeah. So this is the language element is the next one that companies still need to understand and adapt and get used to and understand the value from. Now, in terms of development, I think speech. So this is another element that we offer in our company. So text to speech, speech to text, chatbots installed in hospitals more and more. So conversational AI, I think, is the future, together with more sort of implemented machine translation solutions.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Very interesting and valuable information, great presentations, comment. I think like we have 3 more minutes to to fill the entire hour that we had booked. It's good that we have that many questions. Thanks for the presentations. And just one question, apart from accuracy, what is the main advantage of using Tilde than using other machine translation providers? Since I believe the variety is there, so why?
Well, if you compare it to Google Translate specifically, as mentioned before, it is not a safe and secure space. So Google Translate learns from anything you type into it, and you cannot simply translate highly sensitive content like medical there. Apart in terms of other providers, similar providers, MT providers like Tilde, as I already mentioned, our specialty is customization, as well as our research and development is done in-house. So we ensure that the next possible feature, the next possible innovation is developed by us. So I think, customization and going hand in hand with innovation for such industries like medical would be why you should choose and work with us.
Good. I don't know. It's like 1 minute just left. I don't know if there's anything else. I see that Jeff mentioned a couple of more comments. I fully agree with issues of the target sector industry needing to catch up. It is true also in so many sectors. And then also he posted an article about translation speed question that he himself wrote in the Multilingual magazine number 62.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. One more question. I don't know if we have time, but anyhow, I see Mihai just asked one question. Since we are almost reaching the hour, we'll take that answer. And Victoria, I'll pass that question to Victoria because it's related to Tilde for copyright and things like this. And Victoria will be contacting you directly Mihai, with that answer. Yeah. Just what Victoria promised at the beginning, just a reminder, if anyone's interested, victoria.kononova.tilde.com for more details on this treat for Christmas. Having said this, thank you once again to everyone who was on the other side of the computers, and also special thanks to Victoria and Elisa for all the details that you shared today. I think we had a lot of different questions and very interesting, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
And having said this, since we are approaching the Christmas period, so have a lovely holiday wherever you are located, and thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Bye.